government and the House of Representatives passed the controversial Omnibus Bill on job creations into law. PP Presisi has obtained 1.7 trillion new contracts up to August 2020. Viewers in Indonesia and Singapore, Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Claranta Wijaya, and this is Market Headlines. And yes, viewers, let's open up market headlines with a controversial omnibus bill on job creations. Despite mounting oppositions to the bill over its feared impact of the environment and labor rights, the government and the House of Representatives passed the controversial omnibus bill on job creations into law, which was sooner than its initial plan. The law aims to improve bureaucratic efficiency and cut the red tape, particularly in regards to business permits and investment. In a plenary sessions on Monday, Deputy House Speaker Aziz Syamsuddin of the Golkar Party said that the deliberations of the bill had taken place from April 20th to October 3rd. This long period of time reflected that the lawmakers and the government had been holding meetings even on weekends to expedite the deliberations. Gerindra Party representatives say that all fractions paid attention to workers' rights in decision-making process. A number of President Joko Widodo's cabinet members were present during the plenary, including the coordinating Economic Minister Erlangga Hartarto, Finance Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati, Manpower Minister Ida Fauzia, and Law and Human Rights Minister Yasona Lawli and Home Ministers Tito Karnavian. Erlangga saw such urgency. The law was necessary as the country needed to increase employment and improve the business climate following the pandemic. He said that there were 43,600 regulations that needed to be sorted out before the pandemic, adding that Indonesia's competitiveness is also lagging behind in ASEAN. From all sources, IDX Channel. The government and the House of Representatives passed the controversial omnibus bill on the job creations into law. 7 fractions agreed, 2 fractions denied the result. Situations got intense when the Democratic Party fractions decided to leave or walk out the plenary session. The final draft on the bill is 905 pages long, contains 185 articles, and the 15 chapters has turned into law. In short, the law aims to improve bureaucratic efficiency and cut red tape, particularly in regards to business permits and investment. 7 House fractions have conveyed their approval of the bill, namely Indonesia's Democratic Party of Struggle, or PDIP, Golkar, Gerindra, the Nasdem Party, the National Awakening Party, or PKB, the National Mandate Party, or PAN, and the United Development Party, or PPP. However, 2 other fractions, the Democratic Party and Prosperous Justice Party, or PKS, have rejected the bill. The former were walking out of the plenary meeting. As the answer for the Democratic Party walkout actions, Ossi Darmawan, as the head of Strategy Communications Board at Democratic Party, elaborated several points on why Democratic Party denied the Omnibus Bill.
Rancangan undang-undang ini tidak hanya cacat secara substansi, namun juga cacat secara prosedural, di mana kami melihat pembahasan dilakukan tidak terlalu transparan dan akuntabel, di mana pelibatan pihak-pihak terkait, stakeholders yang terkait terhadap rancangan undang-undang ini tidak dibahas secara mendalam kepada elemen-elemen tersebut. Misalnya kaum buruh, serikat pekerja, aktivis lingkungan.
Another point, Democratic Party urged to delay the bill, and look at the public oppositions which is everywhere. From Jakarta, Wicky Adrian for IDX Channel. Workers in Jakarta, specifically in Pulau Gadung area, held demonstrations as a protest over omnibus bill on job creations that has turned into law. As a protest against the passage of the omnibus bill on job creations into law, workers in Pulau Gedung area in East Jakarta held a strike. Demonstrations are carried out in various ways, such as traveling around the industrial area of Pulau Gadung, East Jakarta, as well as giving speeches in front of office buildings. The strike, which was planned to take place on October 6 to 8, 2020.
Kami sebagai rakyat, sebagai buruh, benar-benar merasa dirugikan. Dan ini kita lihat betul-betul ada semacam kerja tayang, ada upaya paksa ya, yang secara masukan, secara
Along with the development of COVID-19 vaccine by Biopharma and Sinovac, Biopharma management stated that the price for the vaccine is estimated no more than 200,000 rupiah for one dose.
The clinical trial process for the third stage of the Sinovac vaccine, which is currently still being carried out by Biopharma, is expected to be completed in January 2021. If the clinical trial results are successful, then Biopharma will immediately produce and sell the Sinovac vaccine after obtaining a distribution permit. President Director of Biopharma Honesty Bashir, in a joint hearing with members of the House of Representatives, say that the selling price of Sinovac vaccine is expected to be a maximum of 200,000 rupiah for one dose. This price is of course higher than the initial estimate of 145,000 rupiah.
Uangnya karena kita masih belum semua produksi vaksin itu mereka menyebutkan biaya pastinya, Pak. Jadi kita hanya menggunakan anggaran biaya aproximasi, Pak. Ini masih mungkin berubah. Kami berharap untuk yang dengan Sinovac ini harganya mungkin bisa kita tekan maksimum 200.000, Pak, per satu dosis. Jadi kalau 2 dosis sekitar 400.000. Tapi ini masih approximately, Pak, ya, karena kita masih melihat juga kondisi terakhir.
The sales of this Sinovac vaccine are also targeted by the government for only 170 million people, or 70% of the total population of Indonesia. From Jakarta, Wicky Adrian for IDX Channel.
Stay tuned on market headlines because we will be right back after this quick break.
Mengenai relaksasi pajak 0% terhadap kendaraan mobil baru, hal yang harus dipertimbangkan oleh pemerintah untuk usulan ini, Mangi.
Nantinya akan memberikan efek multiplier ya yang positif sekali.
Saat ini lebih mudah untuk mendapatkan informasi mengenai perkembangan ekonomi dan bisnis di Indonesia dengan aplikasi IDX Channel. Mulai dari berita, makro dan mikroekonomi, politik hingga hiburan. Anda juga dapat berbagi artikel, foto, dan video ke semua platform media sosial yang Anda miliki. Beragam informasi hari ini bisa di-download di dalam aplikasi idxchannel.com. IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business, and Capital Market Channel.
Pergerakan indeks harga saham gabungan sepanjang perdagangan hari ini tertekan, level 5 ribuan kembali ditinggalkan. Bagaimana analisis Anda?
Masih ada peluang turun lebih lanjut. Kalau misalkan regionalnya memerah, nah maka tidak tentu kemungkinan kita juga akan ketularan kan.
Dan beberapa perbankan yang diduga melakukan transaksi mencurigakan dan semoga bisa menjadi salah satu referensi untuk Anda dan seperti apa ke depannya.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. Small medium enterprises play a key role in national economy, boost digital inclusions among small businesses, and to improve their skills. And with the COVID-19 crisis, the government is joining hand with the e-commerce players and tech firms to provide training and small medium enterprises. The Communications and Informations Ministry announced a partnership with Indonesia's e-commerce associations to roll out online classes for 2,500 SMEs from October 5th to December 12th. Communications and Informations Minister Johnny G. Plate said that the program was aimed at SMEs outside of Java, particularly those in the outmost and frontier and the least developed regions, and those located in countries' 5 priority tourism destinations, including Borobudur in Central Java, Mandalika in West Nusa Tenggara, and Lake Toba in North Sumatra. He went on to say that around 9.4 million SMEs had gone online to date, closing in the government's target of having 10 million SMEs going digital by the end of the year. From all sources, IDX Channel. Are seen as the main actors of both national and regional development in many countries, especially Indonesia. There is an interesting fact that small medium enterprises in Indonesia contributed around 60% to GDP. But many experts say that Indonesia's SMEs are actually capable to reach more than 60% of the GDP. And to get know more on how actually Indonesia's SMEs performance is, we are going to have a deeper discussions with Mario Masaya as the director of U.S. ASEAN Business Council. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir. I would like to know, things about small medium enterprises has always been a public darling, sir. So I would like to know from U.S. ASEAN Business Council's perspective, how strong is Indonesia's SMEs positions? Is it lag behind or competitive among other ASEAN countries?
Thank you, Makara, for the question. I think, number one, I think we have to understand different categories and definition of SMEs in ASEAN countries. So I think we look at Brunei and Laos and Singapore, and then we look at Indonesia, we have different definition of SMEs. So looking at that, Indonesian SMEs are actually not lag behind. Our people are innovative, creative, and adopt digital technologies very quickly. So we are, I would say we are among the top users of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, around the world. And actually digital payments are so robust. Online services are available and various online marketplaces also available. The micro, though, needs attention. I think the Ministry of SMEs in Indonesia is working on coordinating various government agencies' effort to empower and promote local products. Micro businesses, I think, are getting more attention to have some sort of empowerment program from the government. And this is the serious challenge where the government should focus on. And I think they are trying to do that. So back to your question, I think we are competitive enough, but sometimes we are too comfortable with the Indonesian market. Even big companies, we usually look at ourselves and not looking beyond Indonesia. I mean, Indonesia is a big market already, so a lot of SMEs and even big companies, they're looking at internal Indonesian markets as a consumers. So the opportunities are there, but I don't think we are tapping that opportunities beyond Indonesia.
All right, sir, it's really good to know that Indonesia is competitive in your perspective. And speaking about ASEAN countries, as we know that ASEAN, most of the countries are emerging economies such as Indonesia. And because of that, small medium enterprises in these countries are really affecting their national economy. And I would like to know from your opinion, which one of the Asian country that is fit enough to be Indonesia's role model in terms of small medium enterprises?
Well, I would say we should be the role model, right? I mean, a lot of SMEs, a lot of unicorns in Indonesia have become like no longer SMEs now. Right now, we have like Gojek, and we have also big companies now. And there are also other payment systems and Tokopedia and online marketplaces. Also, like used to be like SMEs, but also big. So I think we are a role model in ASEAN, and I think ASEAN countries also acknowledge that in a lot of ASEAN meetings. But if we have to pick, one other countries in ASEAN that we should look at, I would say probably Thailand. I think the similarities between the two countries, Indonesia and Thailand. Thailand is a big country, big market also. Not as big as Indonesia, but very similar in terms of profile of the innovations and creative industry and the use of mobile technology and online marketplace. So I think the main difference there is I think Thai SMEs are more like outside or outside looking. So they are outward looking SMEs. So I've seen like Thai SMEs in Laos and in Cambodia more than probably Indonesian SMEs in Malaysia or our neighbor countries.
Oh,
so that's probably my...
Yes, sir. It's really interesting that you say Thailand as the first place, because I thought that you were going to mention a country like Singapore. Why not Singapore? I'm curious.
Well, I would say, Singapore and Malaysia, they are also pretty good, and they're also thinking about, outside Indonesia or outside Singapore and outside Malaysia. But I would say in terms of profile, Thailand is probably more closely to Indonesia. And I would say that Thailand SMEs are as creative, as innovative like Indonesia. They are big as us. So I would say they are more probably like a model for us.
Oh, sir, okay.
And to be honest, Clara, not to say that Singapore and Malaysian SMEs are not, but if you compare it to Indonesia.
All right, sir. Okay, I got what you mean. And I would like to deliver a fact that Indonesia's SMEs has contributed to 60% of our GDP, while indeed Singapore lower than us by 49% only to GDP. So, yeah, probably Indonesia can be the role model for the other ASEAN countries in here.
Well, I'd like to correct the numbers there, but that's okay. There are definition, like I said, of SMEs. I think 60% is too low. I think it's probably more than 80 or 90% according to some results. But like I said, some people are categorized as SMEs in different ways. So.
Yes, sir. That's really interesting, sir. So we can take a conclusions that Indonesia still have big potentials in the small medium enterprise sector, right?
We do, right.
Sure, sir. Thank you for your time with us. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a nice evening, sir.
You too.
Yes, viewers, stay with us because market headlines will be right back after this quick break.
Gabungan Industri Kendaraan Bermotor Indonesia mendukung usulan relaksasi pajak sebesar 0% untuk pembelian mobil baru.
Angka-angka penjualan kendaraan bermotor sangat terpuruk.
Berdasarkan data dari pemerintah ya, saat ini sudah 9,4 juta UMKM yang go digital. Artinya tinggal selangkah lagi ya menuju target pemerintah ini.
Saat ini lebih mudah untuk mendapatkan informasi mengenai perkembangan ekonomi dan bisnis di Indonesia dengan aplikasi IDX Channel. Mulai dari berita, makro dan mikroekonomi, politik hingga hiburan. Anda juga dapat berbagi artikel, foto, dan video ke semua platform media sosial yang Anda miliki. Beragam informasi hari ini bisa di-download di dalam aplikasi idxchannel.com. IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business, and Capital Market Channel.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. So let's take a look at Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement today. So earlier today, JCI was opened at the level of 5,004.4, and then approaching the closing time of the first session, the index is on the level of 5,009.88, and then the index was showing strengthening trend by the second session's closing time. The index was closed at the level of 4,999.22, but in short, JCI went up 0.82%. Next, we are going to see this sectoral movement leading the dynamics of today's trading. We got finance as the leader of the strengthening trend that went up 1.65%, Miss Industry that went up 1.25%, and we got constructions as the leader of the weakening trend that went down 0.81%, and consumer goods that went down 0.22%. And moving on to the top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights for today's trading sessions. BBCA went up 3.26%, BMRI went up 2.8%, PGIS went up 4.3%, and MNCN that went up 13.1%. And moving forward, meantime, for the top losers for today's trading, we got KBIG that went down 6.49%. We got LINK that went down 6.67%. And we got JIST that went down 6.92%. And we got KIJA that went down 2.8%. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. So rupiah opened at the level of 14,712. Rupiah was also showing weakening trend towards US dollar and was closed at the level of 14,705. In summary, rupiah went up 1.29%. And yes, viewers, moving on to the IDX listed company. This time, infrastructure-related company PP Presisi is still aiming for additional new contracts until the end of 2020. Meanwhile, until August 2020, the company has obtained 1.7 trillion new contracts. PP Presisi Finance Director Benny Pidaksa said that the company has a new contract of 1.7 trillion rupiah until August 2020. The contracts obtained by the company during August include Mandalika Circuit in West Nusa Tenggara, Jatah Coal Mining in East Kalimantan, and many more. The director said that the company is still targeting a new number of new contracts until the end of 2020. And one of them is Batang Industrial Estate in Central Java. And yes, viewers, as the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, Medco Energy International recorded net loss in the first half of 2020.
The performance of Medco Energy International in the first semester of 2020 was marked by net losses due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. CEO of Medco Energy Roberto Lorato revealed that the decline in energy needs due to the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in the second quarter oil price below $30 per barrel and cut gas demand to a minimum level. Based on financial reports as of June 2020, Medco reported revenue of $551.76 million. The value decreased 7.56% year-on-year from the first semester of 2019. With reference to the current exchange rate, the revenue in the first semester of 2020 is equivalent to 7.88 trillion rupiah. Net oil and natural gas sales contributed the most revenue of 6.72 trillion rupiah. In the midst of a decline in income, Medco's cost of goods increased to $349.19 million as of June 2020. As a result, Medco recorded a net loss amounting to $95.75 million or equivalent to 1.37 trillion rupiah. The net loss was reversed from the previous net profit of $27.86 million in the first half of 2019. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
course, in the midst of pandemic, construction sectors is really heavily contracted. But in the rest of this year, Wijaya Karya Bangunan Gedung is focused on pursuing the acquisitions of a new contract value, which is still 40% of the 2020 target.
In the rest of this year, Wijaya Karya Bangunan Gedung is focused on pursuing the acquisition of new contract value, which is still 40% of the 2020 target. According to Wika Gedung's corporate secretary Bobby Iman Setia stated that the company has secured around 1.4 trillion rupiah in new contracts. The contracts are still dominated by private projects with 43%, SOE projects with 32%, and the rest of them from the government. Meantime, based on segmentations, 53% came from public facilities such as several hospitals to accelerate the handling of COVID-19. Then 34% of the projects obtained come from office segmentation, and the rest are residential and commercial projects. Bobby also said that the company's new contract target of 3.4 trillion rupiah by 2020. It means that Wika Gedung still has to catch up with 2 trillion rupiah contracts by the end of the year. For information, based on the financial statements for the first half of 2020, Wika Gedung received revenue of 1.71 trillion rupiah as of June 30, 2020. The realization was down 20.53% from the first half of 2019. From there, the company booked a net profit of 96.91 billion rupiah. The amount shrank 46.8% year-on-year. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
And yes, viewers, the rescue of the Jiwasraya insurance policy will certainly be in accordance with the criteria of each policy. Later, the settlement of the policy will be carried out gradually and will be in accordance with the cash value.
The President Director of Asuransi Jiwasraya, Heksana Prisa ensures that the process of rescuing the Jiwasraya customer policy will be divided into two policies, namely the traditional policy and JS saving plan policy. He ensured that the saving policy for traditional policies would later be completed in the form of policy benefit adjustments, while for the JS policy saving plan, later, it would be offered in installments and would be based on cash value.
Untuk polis tradisional nanti akan diselesaikan dalam bentuk penyesuaian manfaat atas polis yang diterima oleh pemegang polis. Ya, ada normalisasi, ada penyesuaian manfaat polis. Yang kedua, untuk polis JS Saving Plan dalam bentuk pemenuhan seluruh atau 100% nilai tunai polis dengan cara dicicil secara bertahap setiap akhir tahun tanpa bunga dalam jangka yang panjang. Namun apabila ingin menghendaki jangka yang lebih pendek, tentu cicilan akan berubah dan ada penyesuaian atau haircut terhadap nilai tunai.
The mechanism for rescuing the Jiwasraya insurance customer policy is carried out in line with the plan to provide state capital participation or PMN worth 22 trillion rupiah. Later, the Jiwasraya insurance policy will be transferred to a subsidiary of Bahana Pembina Usaha Indonesia, namely IFG Life. From Jakarta, Wicky Adrian for IDX Channel.
And the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. I'm Clara Antawijaya. Have a nice evening and stay tuned.
Halo pemirsa IDX Channel, kembali lagi bersama saya Prisa Sombo dalam program Decision Maker. Program yang hadirkan perbincangan spesial bersama para tokoh dan pengambil kebijakan di negeri ini. Dan pemirsa, inilah Decision Maker selengkapnya untuk Anda. Ya pemirsa, berbicara mengenai rencana pemerintah untuk melakukan pemindahan ibu kota dari Jakarta ke wilayah Kalimantan Timur tentu butuh persiapan yang matang. Dan untuk membahasnya lebih jauh, saya akan langsung berbincang bersama dengan Menteri Perencanaan Pembangunan Nasional sekaligus merupakan Kepala Bappenas Bapak Suharso Monoarfa. Apa kabar Bapak?
Alhamdulillah, baik-baik.
Terima kasih banyak di tengah kesibukan menyempatkan diri untuk berbincang bersama dengan IDX Channel. Ini kan masih awal tahun nih Pak Menteri. Nah, rencana ataupun kegiatan prioritas di tahun 2020 itu boleh dijelaskan sedikit apa saja Pak?
Prioritas dalam hal pembangunan ibu kota. Kalau dalam hal pembangunan ibu kota yang baru tentunya, kan semua pada mau nanya ini soal ibu kota baru itu kayak apa bentuknya. Kemarin sudah disayembarakan urban design-nya. Jadi supaya jangan keliru, itu namanya urban design, bukan urban planning